Hello everyone, this is Derek A. Smith, aka Dr. Negotiator, and today I want to talk to you about 5 steps for creating value in negotiations. Now, our efforts to create value in any negotiation will be highly limited if they don't form a collaborative approach with our negotiation counterpart or our opponent. We don't want to just make a shaky agreement and have an angry, resentful opponent at the end. Remember, we want to create a win-win situation. We want to create a relationship that's solid and durable and benefits everybody involved. So it's ideal. What's ideal situation is if we can leave the table shaking hands, smiling, feeling pleased that we work together to make the best possible deal for both of us. It's too often that the natural consequence of competitive negotiation, which is basically what we're in, is that one or both sides kind of feel cheated, or at least they feel hard done by the other person, and they think that their colleagues invest time in figuring out how to live up to the letter, but not the spirit of the contract. We want them to feel like we live up to the spirit of that contract. What's the result of that? They go back and they claim value at almost every opportunity, stripping the deal of value. So what I want to do is I want to examine several successful and necessary strategies to make this work, to make value creation work in your negotiations. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Before we do, what is negotiating? It's the art of reaching an agreement by resolving differences through creativity. And your main goal is to get that contract signed no matter what the business you're in, or no matter what you're dealing with. So let's look at creating value. And basically creating value begins with information sharing. Let's look at a scenario. We know what we want to achieve, as do our opponent. They know what they want to achieve too, but we don't know each other very well. It could be a real estate deal, it could be any type of sales deal where you just met. So how do we get the ball rolling? Well, the first step is to build trust through information sharing. You share a little bit, I share a little bit. This does not mean that you should disclose your entire game plan and hope for the best. What it actually means is that you must begin to slowly to ensure that your counterpart or your opponent is on the same page and is ready and willing to reciprocate in sharing information. So you give a little bit of information, you see if they give you some information. So what is the easiest way to achieve this reciprocal sharing of information? The first step is to ask and answer questions. Neither side can proceed effectively until each begins to fully understand the other. You got to seek to understand your opponent first. And then, and the only way to begin this process is to ask some intelligent questions. Now, we already have decided the questions that we want before we even begin. Remember, in my other teachings, you have to decide what you want to, you have to know what you want to ask first. You do that in your preparatory stage. Go back and look at my one that teaches about that. So this should be your analytical and problem solving questions. This should be analytical problem solving in nature. So one or both of you are likely to have a problem or a challenge. And we want to find the best means of addressing this to a mutually attractive solution. It may be real estate deal where we come up with the right price, a fair price for the person, but we also make a good deal for ourselves. Likewise, we're anticipating the questions that they're going to be asking us. The more information each one of us get from each other, the more readily that we're going to be able to find creative solutions that address the needs and objectives for both of us. A negotiation is not one-sided. If we expect to receive information, we must also be willing to share information too. So it's called reciprocity. Reciprocity is the key to successful fact-finding, as this is the only way we're going to be able to find creative solutions that benefit us and benefit our opponent, therefore creating that win-win situation I always talk about. The next step, excuse me, is to multiple negotiation issues and multiple package offers or multiple proposals. What do I mean by this? Well, few negotiations resolve around a single issue, and the majority do so around the creation of a partnership between you and that opponent that entails multiple issues. So a solid partnership between you two must always be based on trust and respect as its cornerstone, even if the only issue concerns negotiating the price. We can always enhance this by focusing on building a durable working relationship, one from which both parties can continuously profit from. If it's that type of deal where you can continuously profit. But even if it's a real estate deal where I have a win-win situation, I profit by getting a good deal, they profit by getting a good price, a decent price. So issues need to be identified and prioritized in the preparation stage once again, and a large number of issues would likely increase and enhance the number of resources to be shared, which in turn creates value creating opportunities. And remember, we're about creating value in our deals. Now, one error that many negotiations make is to present or propose a single offer. Now, this can act as an anchor where everything revolves around it because it has such a narrow scope. All we have is one thing to talk about. Our talks can be easily affected because there's a limiting attitude in working with a single offer. However, if we present a package containing multiple offers or proposals simultaneously, we're much more able to creatively discuss trade-offs and addressing the issues that we face. So, trade-offs is the big thing. What can I give a little bit and what can they give a little bit? That's what's important. So a multiple negotiation package is going to enable us to add more value to an agreement because we will be able to compare and distinguish issues when we discuss trade-offs. When more issues are put to the table, we have more flexibility to negotiate trade-offs, such as time preferences, valuations, forecast capabilities, prices, you name it. There's things on the table that we can concede to and that they can concede to. So we have to resist the temptation to compromise, because this does not yield value and it's going to diminish the resource to be negotiated. We don't want to compromise so much. We want to create the perception that we add in value. We must instead negotiate trade-offs that are of greater relative value to us, or at the very least of equal relative value. Anything less will reduce the value of the agreement. The process of creating value in our negotiations can only occur once both parties adopt the mindset of creative problem solving. So, next step we have is to use our differences as our strengths. Okay? Now, negotiations often break down because negotiating parties use their differences as a divisive means to drive a wedge between us, between us and our opponent. But instead, what I want you to do is try using a contingency contract to build some bridges between me and that opponent. A contingency contract addresses our differences and expectations as a contingency itself, if premised on an if-then type of thing. So if I do this, then we'll do that. So if-then tier type design considers changes in circumstances. Now here's a couple, here when we do this, we draw up an agreement to address our different viewpoints by saying something like this. I have a couple examples. Like if circumstance A happens, if sales exceed this amount, we agree to the following process. Or if things change and circumstance B could occur, like sales fall between a certain amount or within a certain range, we agree to the next step. So use those differences in strength, have those if-then contingencies to work with. Next, use risk and time differences to create value. Many people, including negotiators like ourselves, are averse to risk. We just don't like it. So one party will signal their aversion to risk by stating that they are adamant about a certain issue, such as how they might split profits since they have different forecasts or different ideas. This should not be viewed as an obstacle, but rather as an opportunity to make a trade-off and gain something in return. Different attitudes about the opponent's perceptions and about ours, about our perceptions of risk, should not act as a barrier to our agreement, but should open up the door for us to negotiate a productive trade-off by offering alternatives to enhance the value of the deal. This concept also applies to differences in time expectations. They may insist on guaranteed delivery or on a particular date, or closing the deal on a particular date, or your tenants need to move out at a particular time. And we agree to this by rearranging a payment schedule that's more suitable to us in return. Once again, there's a trade-off there to create some type of value. The next step, cost cutting and adding resources strategy, to add value. So this is my last step, but another effective strategy to employ in adding value is cost cutting. And this occurs when one party achieves an objective while the other has specified costs that are affiliated to their concession, either lowered or eradicated altogether. So a second means of strategically gaining value is to consider ways to add necessary resources when the problem of scarce resources is creating conflict. Finding another supplier or suggesting a subcontract arrangement with a mutually agreed upon party are just two examples I can give you of how to view a difference in opinion as an opportunity rather than a problem. So to wrap this up, basically, the ways and means of enhancing our negotiations by adding value to our agreements are most readily achieved when we apply creative problem solving. We create value by working collaboratively to use our differences as an opportunity to enhance the scope of the agreement by doing things like expanding the issues, making multiple offers, constructive trade-offs, and contingency agreements, and then looking at how we tackle those agreements. So the main goal here, once again, is to not just present an offer, not just present a deal, but you need to create value in that deal in order to have that win-win situation, and more importantly, in order to get what you want. Once again, this is Derek Smith, aka Dr. Negotiator, and you can learn more by going to massiveactionsuccesscoaching.com and reaching out to me. Or you can come out and check out the rest of my videos on negotiations on my YouTube channel right here, youtube.com, user negotiations now. I have a Facebook page and a Facebook group also called Negotiations Now. So please join us to learn more about how you can be effective in negotiations and how you can win in most situations that you find yourself in. And my name is Derek Smith. I'm an expert in negotiations with 8 college degrees, including my doctorate, and have been doing negotiations for over 20 years. So come glean something from me, maybe pick up 1 or 2 tips and learn. And thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I'll see you on my next video.